This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm your midday host, Julie Grant. Great to see you on this Thursday afternoon. We begin this hour in Los Angeles, California, where day 2 of deliberations in the Jinx murder trial ended without a verdict. So far, the jury spent 5 hours and 49 minutes deliberating the case. They're deciding whether defendant, millionaire real estate heir Robert Durst, is guilty of murdering his best friend and publicist, Susan Berman. Now, deliberations are scheduled to resume on Friday, so we could potentially get the verdict then. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter for some analysis on the case. So, Chanley, if you would please walk us through what they're seeing on the verdict form, what they're going through line by line in order to arrive potentially at a verdict on this one, please.
That's a great question, because this jury not only is considering what they're here for, which is that one charge of murder for the death of Susan Berman, but they have some other special considerations to take up after they decide on that. So here is what the jury is back there considering. First, whether or not Robert Durst committed murder of Susan Berman in December 2000. If they unanimously agree that he did commit murder, then they would decide whether that's first-degree murder, the willful, deliberate, premeditated murder of Susan Berman, or if it's a lesser of second-degree murder. Then they go on, if they unanimously convict him of that first-degree murder charge, Julie, they would go on to consider some special circumstances. Here, the prosecution filed this as a witness killing and a killing that was committed while lying in wait. Those two special circumstances have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If the jury finds true on that verdict form, then that would be life without the possibility of parole for Robert Durst. Also, there's one more consideration: whether or not Robert Durst used a firearm during the commission of this murder. That's an enhancer. It would be an increased sentence for this jury if they do decide to mark true on that in the verdict form as well. But I wanted to take a deeper look into what those special circumstances are in this case, because this is really important to the prosecution. This is the prosecution team that wants to put Robert Durst away for the rest of his life without parole. So they filed this as a witness killing, which they told this jury they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant killed Susan Berman, that Berman was a witness to a crime, that being the disappearance of Kathy Durst in 1982, and that they have to prove that this killing was not committed during the commission of that crime, which Berman was a witness to, and the defendant intended that Berman be killed to prevent her from testifying in that criminal proceeding. So if they mark true on that, that's increased sentence. But also here, the prosecution said this was a murder committed while lying in wait. During closing arguments, the prosecutors argued that that's the easiest finding for this jury, because the elements are pretty straightforward, that this defendant concealed his or her purpose from the person who was being killed, that he or she waited and watched for an opportunity to act, that he or she made a surprise attack on the person killed from a position of advantage, and that he or she intended to kill the person by taking the person by surprise. Here, the prosecution says the crime scene of Susan Berman's home speaks for itself. Whoever murdered her was someone that she knew, that she was comfortable with, turned her back to that person, and that's when that person did the surprise attack, here to quote the law, and murdered her by shooting her in the back of the head.
Right. I remember Deputy DA John Lewin saying to the jury in his rebuttal, thank God she never saw it coming. So his position is that she never knew who murdered her, because she had no idea that Robert Durst was allegedly in that house ready to shoot her. Chanley, tell me, were there any noticeable reactions or anything you were to pick up on when you saw the jury come in with that note yesterday? We know we got to see them. You told us earlier about learning who the foreperson is. Anything you noticed when they were in there, please?
Just that they get along. This is a jury that seems cordial with one another. They've gotten to know each other, Julie, for a year and a half. This trial has been ongoing. It was delayed in 2020 due to COVID-19 conditions, and they've been spending almost every day inside this courtroom for the last almost 5 months together. So they've really bonded, and you can tell that it's apparent. So far, sometimes in deliberations, Julie, as the deliberations go on, The jurors are discontented. You can see it on their faces as they go out for a break or as they walk back into the courtroom. They're in different separate groups. Maybe they didn't get along back there, but so far from what we can tell based on these jurors coming and going from the courthouse, when they take their break, they are quite getting along. And that fourth person that we learned about yesterday, juror number 12, Hispanic woman, probably in her late 40s, she seems to be one that they emanate towards that always has a group of people around her during these breaks and when they're coming and going from the courthouse.
Sure. I remember you saying earlier she seems popular, which would make sense why they elected her to be the foreperson when they got in the jury room. And tell us, are they sequestered? I know that's something a lot of people have had questions about, maybe who haven't followed this case from the outset as we have. What's going on with them and where they are at this point, please?
These jurors are not sequestered, and they will not be sequestered. They haven't been sequestered the entire time of the trial, so they are told when to arrive and when to leave. They're under strict admonitions from the judge, not to talk about the case, not to form opinions, not to do any outside research, and the notepads or any of the things that they have with them at the courthouse, they leave there every day. So they will be returning. Of course, court is dark today, but they will be back tomorrow at a later time. They're going to start around 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. So they'll have a few hours, 3 or so hours to deliberate tomorrow afternoon, Julie. If they don't reach a verdict on Friday, likely we will be here starting the next week along the same type of schedule until they can reach a verdict.
Oh boy, good to know. I know you'll be there for it all. Chanley Painter, thank you so much for your reporting in LA today.